Hi there, and welcome to InsideTracks.co.uk, the website and channel that tries to help you trade smarter. Please, if you like this video, subscribe and like, or leave a comment so I can get better. Today we're going to look at exchange trading in a slightly smarter way, and how we can use the generous best odds guaranteed system that the bookies run as part of our trading strategy. So just in case you don't know what best odds guaranteed is, it's a system that it has been brought into place as a way of competing, the big bookmakers competing, and they have found that they can offer you whatever the best odds when you actually make your bet. So say you bet on a horse at 6-1 and it drifts out to 8-1, then they will give you, or should do, sometimes it doesn't happen that way, but they should do, with the best odds guaranteed, give you the 8-1. And if obviously you bet at 6-1, it goes into 5-1, they'll still give you the 6-1. So they give you a best odds guaranteed, and we're going to have a look and see how we can use this kind of safety net, if you like, as part of our trading strategies. So I'll come back in just a second. So we're going to take as an example in our newsletter that we send out every day. We had a few winners yesterday, but we basically go into the horses that we nap and the reasons why. But I'm going to focus on a horse called Monarch Maid, which I have looked at in some detail last night and seen that Monarch Maid makes a very interesting back to lay candidate, basically because of the fact that it likes to lead. So we probably think it's going to get a soft lead because it's the only one of the field who wants to be in front. But we are talking about a class 6 race, and you know, again, if she does lead, that's fine. We'll get a good price in running. But there's some downsides. I don't like the jockey. I don't like particularly the trainer. They've both got dreadful records at Kempton. And if they can't get the horse out in front and in front going off the final bend, then I'll cash out. So we want to, so we put this horse forward because we've seen in the past, and go into its past record with its Betfair starting price and its in running in play low, and we can see that the horse has traded very low in running in most of its previous 15 races. In fact, we can see that 12 out of the 14 previous runs, it's run at 50% profit to us if we backed it at BSP and then traded out at the IP low. So we can see that this horse likes being in front. We can see that it's traded very low in running on lots of previous occasions, and we can see that it's the only front runner. So I've actually put this horse forward. One of the reasons I put it forward is because at the time of tipping it, it was at 11 on Betfair. And so it doesn't need a huge amount of reduction in price during running once it gets out in front for us to get a significant profit on our stake. So this is a horse that I'm interested in. Now I'll just hold on and come back to you with the next bit. So here we are at the races. It's the 5:30 at Kempton, and we can see that Monarch Maid isn't anymore at 11. In fact, it's trading at 8.6, and we can see one of the reasons why. Here's the pace analysis, which shows that Monarch Maid is by far and away the paciest horse from the start, wants to be in front. But we see a little HT beside our at the races, and we'll see actually that because I have chosen Monarch Maid, but also Hugh Taylor has managed to pick this horse. So he's decided that Monarch Maid is what he believes is a good tip to win. Now, I'm not a great fan of Hugh Taylor. I think that he tries to get too many big winners, and also he'll tell you, we see it 6-1 here at Bet365, yeah? 6-1, 6-1. You saw that I sent out my newsletter at 11, when it was at 11 on Betfair, so 10-1. Guess what he'll say it will be? Yeah, 10-1. So he's so-called giving you this at 10-1, but by the time you get to it, and we'll see in just a second, that is not what you're going to get. And I'll show you why it isn't what you're going to get. And here we are. This is the reason why Monarch Made is no longer trading up here at 11 or 12. That was when I was tipping it on the web on my newsletter, and we can see actually there was quite a reasonable amount of money being traded up at that area, out of about £300–400–500 going in there. But you can see Hugh Taylor sends out a tweet to say his tips are going to be online. And then as soon as they're up online, a large amount of money comes in, and the price goes from, what, 12.13 or so down to about 7.8. So this is why I'm getting a wee bit teed off if I've tipped something and then Hugh Taylor tips something. You find that when Hugh Taylor tips it, it goes from there to there in one fell swoop, as all of his followers follow him in. But of course, we're not getting the odds. So this is when you can start saying, okay, if you don't want to risk taking the odds here, either the evening before, the morning before, on a back to lay, then what could we do? What could we do to try and prevent this happening to us? Having to take odds here and then finding that it drifts, or not taking the odds here and finding that you get someone like Hugh Taylor tipping it, and then all your profits gone, because actually I was saying at 11 it was 8.6. Well, if you'd done it at 11, you open my newsletter and done it at 11, then now you would be well in, because you have your 33% before even 10 o'clock this morning. So so the fact is, what can we do to try and make this better? And the answer, of course, is that if we think these are reasonable odds, and obviously when I put my newsletter out, I did think that the 11 was reasonable odds, then we should go for a best odds guaranteed company like a Bet365 or like Paddy Power. So obviously here we go. We see that Monarch Made is at 7, which is well below the odds we need to be at. But if you looked at a Bet365 last night, that would be more like 10 or 11. And so if you backed it, you'd have had your 10 or 11, and therefore we could have been now cashing out and taking a 33% before even the off. So it would have been a great bet. We'd had it on Bet365. But if then that 10 or 11, right now we're sat here looking at it, it gone out to say 14 or 15, then we'd still have it. We'd still have 14 or 15, and we'd then be allowed to look at either cashing out before the off, because it drifts so badly that it really upsets us and says, well, this is really not going to work. Or we can allow it to drift out to say 14 or 15 and then still do our back to lay, but on the basis that we've got 14 or 15 odds with Bet365. So basically, what I'm saying to you is, if you see, sign up to our newsletter if you want to, but if you see a horse that you go, okay, this is a good horse for a back to lay, particularly something like that, or something where you want to try and fix your odds and say, yeah, I think those odds are good. Maybe I'm not absolutely certain whether it's going to drift or not. Then my advice is go for best odds guaranteed with one of the reputable companies. I like Sky Bet, I like Bet365, I like Paddy Power. Paddy Power is normally quite a nice one because they genuinely do. They tend to give quite reasonable odds on the best odds guaranteed. So I would tend to go for one of those, and I would have an account with them and put my money, whether that's 20, 30, 50, whatever you are putting on a back to lay, for instance, and then allow the prices to develop. And the worst case scenario is that you back it at 10 and it stays at 10. I mean, that's the worst case scenario you've got. You don't really get any benefit. If you backed it at 10, it goes into 8, you've already made a profit. If you back it at 10 and it goes out to 14, well, you've still got the chance to cash out, on your Betfair account, match that 14 as a cash out, or keep that 14 and do a normal trade in running and look to get your normal profit, whether that's 33%, 50%, or 100%. So there's no real major downside for taking a bet on an online bookies. At the odds, okay, you need to get the odds. So if we were back here last night, this morning, and we were seeing 10, 11, 12, say I'd seen 12 on Betfair this morning, I'd have probably got 11, maybe 10 and a half on Paddy Power with X365. Took the 11, say, on Paddy Power, and then had 11 for when some joker like Hugh Taylor screws up my whole bet. So that's the way to do it. I'll just summarise in a second. So, folks, if you are in a position where your strategy says that the only downside to entering a bet or to entering the market and putting your first bet on is that the horse might drift over the following few hours, i.e. you're not following a strategy that takes into account, for instance, the last 10 minutes when all the money comes on, you're doing a bet like a back delay or a longer term bet, perhaps swing betting or something like that, then if the only downside is that the horse will actually drift, then go for a best odds guaranteed proposition, and then if it does drift, there's no issue. The odds will drift on Betfair as well, and there'll be an opportunity then for you to cut your losses and not make as big a loss as you would if you went on Betfair. The second thing that you need to do is to with that bet, because if you have cut out that downside, then take odds that you think are good, in the view that if something happens, like Hugh Taylor tips your horse, that in fact you can make money. Now, I just want to show you one other thing which I think is quite important and you might find quite interesting. In my experience, this happens pretty much 100% of the time. I'm just going to click on the chart for Monarch Made again. Excuse me. So, as you can see, the tip from Hugh Taylor was published here, pretty much on this line here. This 200 quid was the first 200 quid in. And normally, actually, I find that 200 quid just happens just before he publishes, which is quite interesting. Then he's published, and then you get another 300 quid come in. Now, these numbers, 200 and 300, 500 quid, as opposed to the amount of money that's been on it before, let's take another horse, right? So we see that there's 500 quid gone on there. Another horse, Elliot the Dragon, I mean, basically, it's had a 75 quid, 25 quid, and 125 quid. So it's a similar horse, similar odds. Actually come in, but it's only had £944 on it versus Monarch Made, which is massively over bet because of this following that has come in with large amounts of money, and it's had £5,129. If you multiply that by the 9.2, you get 45k, which means that Monarch Made is far too heavily over bet for this time of the day and for its odds. And so this price movement, because it's all been positive, is too far. So what do you think I do? Well, I sometimes look out for Hugh Taylor's tips and wait for about 5 minutes after his tip has been published, and then I'll come in here. I'll start laying the damn thing at this sort of price, 7.8. I'll be that will be me laying off because at the end of the day, that movement is too far. This horse should not be anything less than this price here. So what's that? 9.5. So if you come down to 7.8, you can almost guarantee it's going to come back out to something like, yeah, I would say 10-ish or so. And at the moment, this horse is sitting at 9.2. So I think there's a bit more movement out towards the 10 mark. And then it might settle down around about the 10 mark. or it might continue to drift. But certainly back down at 7.8, you could make 1.5 to 2 points on that. So that's a relatively easy way of making a little bit of money, is wait for the Hugh Taylor publication on At the Races, watch the price come in, and as soon as you see it turn, lay it off. So get it in somewhere around there, and then you'll see it drift another point, 1.5, maybe even 2 points. So that's a nice little earner for you if you want to do that. Okay, so that's me. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, then obviously subscribe and like. If you've got any comments, please leave them and we'll get better. And very best of luck to you.